A very good day to all the participants. Today we are going to discuss about the boiler, its general constructional features and how it is uh, helping in the process of power generation in thermal power station. In the process of conversion of energy from coal to electricity, we have already seen that how fuel is burned in the furnace of a boiler and how heat is transferred in the working fluid and how that heat is utilized for running a prime mover. So basically the purpose of boiler is to get the chemical energy transformed into heat energy and send that heat energy for useful work in a prime mover. By definition, boiling is a process of heat transfer to convert a liquid substance into vapor state at a given pressure where the liquid is converted into vapor at a constant temperature. In case of power and utility boilers, the generation of steam is necessary at a specified rate of quantity at a particular temperature, pressure, and degree of superheat or enthalpy content. In fact, the heat content per unit of steam determines the work output available from the prime mover where this heat is utilized. Beside that, we need to have a proper arrangement of steam separation, washing, and drying up while steam is generated. We need to have a proper control of combustion or balancing of rate of heat generation and absorption to safeguard the equipments, to safeguard the heat traps so that the heat transferred across the heat traps are not damaging the equipments. And at the same time, we have to look into the matter of maximum transfer of heat so that there is less of stack loss and we can maximize the efficiency. Let us now try to understand the various types of boilers used in terms of application, in terms of operating conditions like pressure and useful fuel which are used for the heat generation by burning into the furnace of the boiler. Application wise, we may find power boilers, process boilers, or various heat exchangers where we may have other fuels like waste heat generating process fuels. They are exchanging heat to have captive mode of power generation. We can have operating pressure wise subcritical or supercritical units. This is based on critical pressure for the water steam domain. As you know, it is 374 degrees centigrade at 221.2 kg per centimeter square pressure. Fuel wise, we can have solid fuel firing system, liquid fuel firing system, gas firing system, or multi-fuel firing system. Solid fossilized fuel, it may be found in different types of arrangements are there, different boilers are there for firing solid fuels. Mostly we prefer pulverized fuel fired system, where we can have dry ash collecting device at the bottom of the furnace or wet ash collecting device at the bottom of the furnace. There are some places we may find fluidized bed combustion, and old units earlier they used to have stokered fired unit travelling rate arrangement. So all these types of firing arrangement, pressure regime of operation and application is visible in different plant. Now for combustion, we require supply of air along with fuel, and there is constant requirement of evacuation of combustion product, particularly gaseous product, flue gas. And for that we have the arrangement of draft within the boiler, and this draft generally supported by the installation of chimney, which is creating a natural draft. Otherwise, we have also the provision of mechanical draft, and this mechanical draft basically either formed by forced draft system. Along with that, we sometimes find that induced draft system is there, and most of the high capacity utility and power boilers, we are having balanced draft system. According to tube layout arrangement, in the earlier stage of boilers, we generally find the shell type of arrangement was there. We will discuss upon that separately. And after that, the fire tube boilers were developed, and subsequently all the present boilers are water tube boilers, where water is flowing through the tubes. Again, these water tube boilers, according to type of arrangements, it may be once through type, where there is no circulation of water steam mixture within the system, or we may find recirculation type, and this recirculation type again, it may be naturally recirculated or assisted recirculated or forced recirculated with some pump. Most of the Indian power plants, we find subcritical recirculation type, and at present we are moving towards installation of more number of supercritical types where no recirculation is there. In subcritical, there may be natural or assisted recirculation, and double pass or tower type boilers, and maximum cases, in fact 90% cases, you will find pulverized coal fired with heavy furnace oil as supplementary fuel, and all the heavy duty plants are having balanced draft systems. From the perspective of optimum utilization of boilers in the power station, we have to look into the maximum efficiency of combustion, and we have to see that the heat transfer is effectively utilized in generation of steam, and there is less loss of available heat, useful heat through the stack, and this steam production is sufficiently having high heat value, and whatever emissions are taking place, these are under control as per statutory stipulated norms. So, if we see the boiler in totality, it has many parts and which are integrated components of the boiler, and they are actually linked to fuel supply system and fuel processing system. Then we have various fans like PA fan, FD fan, igniter fan. All these fans are supplying air which are necessary for initiation of combustion and ensuring completion of combustion. Certain amount of excess air is also provided so that complete combustion can be ensured and there is no heat value lost with the unburnt fuel. Beside that, we have heat trapping arrangements placed in such a way that all the heat is absorbed within the fired and unfired zone. Even the residual heat, when water steam circuit is not absorbing the heat, the residual heat is absorbed for preheating of air, and post preheating of air, exhaust flue gas is passed through dust and suspended particulate matter separation system so that all the fly ash is arrested and clean flue gas evacuated with the help of ID fan through the chimney. So there are several parts, not only water steam circuit as well as for other systems like ash disposals, process control. All these components are also participating in the performance of the boiler. Process of heat addition in the mode of transformation from water to steam is generally taking place in three phases. And the first phase, if we see, it is the sensible heat gain, and second phase is latent heat gain, and third phase is superheat gain. So all these three phases are occurring within the boiler in different zones, different heat traps, and as you see in the basic Rankine cycle, the entire heat addition process in the boiler is at constant pressure, and this constant pressure heat addition is done in successive process, and these processes starts with regenerative feed water heating, subsequently in the economizer, and mostly at the outlet of the economizer we get the saturated water, and this saturated water, when it is reaching in the drum, from drum through downcomer it is circulated within the water walls, and within the water walls whatever heat is added, it is actually adding latent heat, and due to this addition of latent heat we get mixture of water steam which is coming back to the boiler drum again, and in the drum we have separating arrangement, and due to this separating arrangement dry saturated steam come out of the drum and go for superheating, and superheating takes place in different phases of superheating. There are low temperature superheating and high temperature superheating. Low temperature superheating is done in primary superheating system. Primary is also distributed in primary LTSH in the second pass and platen superheaters. Subsequently, we have fine tuning and addition of superheat, more superheat in the final superheater, and it is sent back to boiler again, I mean turbine again, for running the HP turbine. Now, to improve the efficiency of the Rankine cycle, in bigger units we have reheating arrangement. Reheating implies actually we are whatever superheated steam we are sending to HP turbine, after expansion in the HP turbine, that steam is taken back to the boiler through a line which is called cold reheat line. Through the cold reheater, the steam is entering the boiler and getting reheated or superheated, and subsequently it is sent to intermediate pressure turbine or medium pressure turbine, and from there it goes to LP turbine. So reheating is an arrangement to improve the cycle efficiency as well as to raise the degree of superheat of the working fluid, so that in subsequent stage of expansion we can retain the vapor phase of the fluid and we can get better efficiency options. So within the main boiler we find the following arrangements of pressure parts and other components which are available. These are economizer, boiler drum, downcomers, circulating pumps. There is a ring heater at the bottom of the boiler which is distributing water equivalently, uniformly to all the water tubes, water wall tubes. Then we have water walls, low temperature superheaters, divisional panels to improve the heat transfer and increase the amount of heat arresting heat trapping. We have platen superheaters, final superheaters, reheaters and burners attached to the furnace, maybe corner of the furnace or at the front wall or rear wall or both, or side wall also sometimes it is available. And we have also air preheaters. Now we can see the arrangements of these individual components as they are placed within the boiler, and in such a way they are placed that where the temperature of working fluid is higher, we have higher heat value available to in the flue gas to make the heat transfer possible, and where flue gas heat value is less, their heat absorption requirement is also less. So if we start from the end of the boiler at the back end, there we will find we have air preheaters, and above that we have economizers. Air preheater is preheating air, so it is not in the water steam circuit. Above that economizer, from economizer we are sending to the boiler drum. Then from the drum we have water walls. From water walls it is going to LTSH, again LTSH, low temperature superheaters. They are placed at the second pass. These are part of primary superheaters. Then from there it is going to the platen superheaters. From there final superheaters. Final superheaters are placed in the joining of the radiant and convective zones, and subsequently it is sent back to the turbine, HP turbine, superheated steam, final superheated steam. and what if bigger boilers are there, you will find reheaters also. Reheated steam is cold reheat line is taking in the reheat steam and getting it reheated, and resuperheated steam is taken back to the intermediate pressure turbine. So the layout itself is made in such a way that heat transfer is made possible, and the segmentation of the heat traps are made in such a way that flue gas velocity also getting controlled, so that there is sufficient time to get those heat transferred. From the perspective of percentage heat addition in different pressure curve components, we find that economizer is having least heat addition or heat transfer taking place. This is in sensible heat trapping zone. Around 6% heat is absorbed. Drum is outside the heat transfer zone, so there is no heat transfer, only steam and water separation taking place, and as well as it is working as a storage for the water to wet the water walls. It is placed above the water wall levels. Then maximum heat transfer is taking place in the water walls, which are encasing the furnace and receiving the maximum amount of radiant heat. Then around 30% heat is absorbed by superheaters, and around 14% heat is absorbed by reheaters. In the primitive stage of simple vertical water tube boilers with bite drum arrangement connected by boiler bank tubes, the arrangement was such that feed water was taken in the bottom drum or mud drum, and as the fuel like lump coal was spread in the travelling grate at the bottom, and it is burnt, the available heat is absorbed in the water passing through the boiler bunk tubes, and gradually steam is evolved, and from the upper drum or steam drum, steam is taken out at saturated condition. Subsequently, this arrangement was modified bit by bit, starting with placing the piping which is carrying the water from boiler feed pump, placing that piping through the exhaust flue gas which is coming out of the furnace, thereby introducing the economizer, and that hot water is fed into the upper drum, and there is a provision of piping which is coming outside the furnace and connected to the lower drum, mud drum subsequently. So there was a introduction of arrangement of downcomer. So this way a natural circulation system was developed, along with arrangement to remove the sludge due to this recirculation through blowdown, and steam taken out from the upper drum at saturated condition. So we find the introduction of economizer in the system of steam generation has improved the boiler efficiency by reducing the heat loss through the chimney, and thereby saving the fuel cost, as less fuel is required to come to the steaming parameter. And beside that, as the water we are receiving at the outlet of the uh, economizer is hotter, so heat requirement to convert it to steam is less. So steaming capacity is also
In modern
getting improved.
two-pass boilers,
So we are getting more steam
economizer generally
at less
placed in
fuel. Second pass of the boiler, and at the bottommost part of the boiler second pass, just above air preheater, and economizers are placed like a tube bundle which are clamped together with clamping arrangement, and the water is coming from the bottom, and after receiving the sensible heat it is going from the top of the economizer. So outlet is placed at the top, so there is a cross flow arrangement. Flue gas is coming from the top and water is entering from the bottom. So water entering at lower temperature, getting out at higher temperature, flue gas entering at higher temperature, and flue gas discharged at lower temperature. The economizers are generally non-steaming type, and they only absorb that much of heat which accommodate the sensible heat addition within the system. Now the economizer coils are placed in the second pass, and from there it is going to drum. From drum we have connection to the downcomers. Now in general we have arrangement of a recirculation system when boiler feed pump is not supplying water. Boiler feed pump not supplying water, in that case, if firing is continuing, naturally there may be chances of steaming within the economizer. That's why we have a recirculation line and with a non-return valve. This valve has to be opened so that cold water flows through the economizer, and during initial startup time and closing down time, shutting time, heat absorption in the second pass is more than the furnace part. So naturally, as a result, there is a circulation continued through the economizer, so that economizer never gets steaming. So the typical schematic layout of this economizer, water walls, drum, and downcomers and superheated steam generation arrangement is given here. In the economizer, almost all the remaining part of the sensible heat is added. Subsequently, in the drum we get two-phase arrangement. Naturally it is a saturated condition within the drum, and separated water in the drum that is coming down through the downcomer tubes, pipings, and through the water wall within the furnace. Heat is added. This addition of heat is latent heat. Naturally evaporation takes place and steam water mixture returns back to the drum. In the drum there is a separation of steam, and dry saturated steam passed for superheating to the superheaters. Let us now discuss about the drum, which is a special arrangement for subcritical regime of steaming and generation of steam. We have two incoming arrangements and two outgoing arrangements from the drum. Water is coming within the drum from the economizer, then it is passed through the downcomer for heating in the water walls, and water steam mixture is coming back to the drum, and then there is a separation of steam in the saturated condition and dried and sent for superheating. So naturally though it is placed outside the heat transfer zone and there is no heat addition and two-phase existence of fluid is there, working fluid is there, but this is important for wetting of the water walls as well as to continuous supply of saturated dry steam to the superheaters so that they are not getting starved of cooling medium of steam. The typical connection of economizer with drum is shown here, and as you see that drum is receiving the water from economizer, so across the drum length this water is getting distributed through the feed nozzles. So feed nozzle piping is there and this piping is supplying water uniformly across the boiler drum. The typical functions of boiler drum, as we have already discussed, is to separate water and steam from water steam mixture generated in the water walls. Mix water separated with the water from economizer and feed to the downcomers and see that there is no vortex formation in the drum and there is level is maintained within the drum. We also have provision of chemical dosing within the drum to prevent the accumulation of solids, total dissolved solids, and passing over of silica. So naturally we have also arrangement of blowdown. There may be intermittent or continuous blowdown for this purpose. Besides separating steam from the mixture of water and steam, drum also serves the purpose of purification and drying of steam. By drying, actually we mean removal of moisture so that only saturated dry steam come out of the boiler drum and that is going for superheating. Here is a cross-sectional view of the drum and let us try to see the arrangement within the drum. Drum has got various mountings and attachments. We have feed nozzles to feed water from economizer. Then we have downcomers at the bottom of the drum which are taking water, mixing with water steam, separated water from the water steam mixture coming from the water walls, and this water is passing through downcomers. We have local drum level gauge connections. We have manholes to get inside the drum from two ends. We have blowdown arrangements through blowdown nozzles. Then there are safety valves. It may be both ends or it may be at single end. We have tubes, connecting tubes for superheating, and side by side we have sampling arrangement, remote liquid level indicator connecting arrangements, chemical dosing lines, and along with that we have various connections for pressure and temperature measurements. All these connections are found as mountings and attachment within the system. Let us get inside the drum and see what are the components which are there as drum internals. As such, a steam drum contains various internals. One of them is steam separating units. We have arrangements to separate steam from water when water steam mixture is coming inside the drum from the water valves, and there is other components like chemical dosing nozzles and piping and feed water nozzles and arrangements of blow down to remove the suspended solids, foam, froth from the drum, inside drum water. There are two connections for blow down. One is for continuous blow down, another is for intermittent blow down. We have arrangement of separation of steam and water which are coming inside, and they are called cyclone separators. And these cyclone separators are having spinner blades and two concentric barrels covered with secondary separators, and these secondary separators are placed at the top of this barrel, and when water steam mixture is coming in within this separating arrangement, then this there is a centrifugal force created which is giving the spinning action by the when it is passing through spinner blades, and as a result of that, due to heavier mass of the water particles, they are getting separated and steam is passing out through the secondary separators. After that, they are passed through screen dryers. The screen dryers are placed at the top of the drum, and above that screen dryer we have superheating tube connecting stubs. Now these screen dryers, drying screens, are fitted with closely meshed small tiny hole screens, and these screens are just like our asbestos sheets, and they have minute small micronized holes through which, when moist steam is trying to pass out, the moisture is getting arrested and dry saturated steam is in this diagram
coming
out of
we
that.
are showing the connection of drum with the superheating tubing, and as shown in the connection, that from the top of the drum these superheated tubes are coming out and it is going towards the low temperature superheaters placed at the bottom of the second pass, where low temperature superheating arrangement is there. From there, the primary superheated steam going to the second stage of primary superheating, that is platen superheaters placed within the furnace at the top of the furnace. These are called platen because they are just looking like plates. They are clamped together, fitted with lugs, and In the LTSH, flue gas flow is from top to bottom and steam flow is from the bottom to top. So naturally it is a cross flow arrangement, and flue gas is getting cooled as it flows from top to bottom, and steam is getting superheated as it goes from bottom to top. But before entering the Platen superheater, we have an arrangement that is called desuperheating, where we try to control the temperature of the steam at the inlet of the Platen superheater so that subsequent superheating may not take place in such a way that there is overheating of the tubes and superheater temperature goes high and final superheat temperature goes beyond the limit. So this way, with the attemperation arrangement, desuperheating arrangement, we control the steam temperature. From the Platen superheater, superheated steam goes to the final stage of superheating. Both Platen and final stage of superheating, we have parallel flow arrangement. That means steam flow directions and flue gas flow directions are in the same way. It is done so that there is a fine tuning of the steam temperature control as well as the temperature difference between the steam and the tube metal temperature can be kept at a minimum level. So this way we monitor and control the superheating. Chemical dosing is another important aspect to maintain the water quality within the boiler. As you know, DM water pH is an important parameter, and beside that we have to see the suspended solids and total dissolved solids and see that there is no turbidity, froth within the drum water. So naturally there is dosing of coordinated phosphate dosing, bisodium and trisodium phosphate dosing, as well as we have continuous blowdown arrangement to maintain the silica concentration within the drum water, and so that we have to see that silica is not carrying over with the steam separated at saturated condition, because at lower pressure silica gets separated from the steam and it may attach to turbine blades, thereby creating problems of vibration. So we continuously monitor the silica concentration in the boiler drum water, and it should be within the 4 ppm level or below that. Generally we prefer to have 2 ppm, and nowadays with RO system we do not require the chemical dosing in the drum, and RO has better control over the entire system of demineralizing and water quality monitoring. Beside all these arrangements, there are various tappings taken from the drum, and these tappings are necessary for safeguarding the drum itself as well as to monitor the water quality, steam quality, water steam level within the drum, so that we can have a control over the entire steam generating process, because feed water flow and steam flow outlet of the boiler
these two are getting balanced by the drum level. So drum level indicates the balance between feed water flow and steam flow. So we have remote level indicators, local level gauges, and conductivity measurements to uh, ascertain the pH, and we have also pressure measuring devices directly attached to the drum, and we have temperature measuring devices. And temperature, as you know, drum is the thickest uh, material within the entire boiler, and boiler quality materials, they are very having heavy tough quality of material. We have Ducol and other materials are used for this purpose. High carbon alloy steels actually used. Beside that, we have high and low level tripping arrangements and safety valves. All these tappings and attachments are essential for safeguarding the entire boiler. For ascertaining the drum level, we have gauge glasses as a local indicator. It is connected to steam space and water space. So we get a level of water within the drum from the gauge glasses. We have also Hydra step. Hydra step gives us remote liquid level indicators, and in general there are annunciations or alarms for low levels, very low levels, and high levels and very high levels. Generally, drum normal water level is around 10 inch below the drum center line. Whenever drum normal water level goes down, then if it is by around 5 inches below the normal water level, then it is termed as low water level within the drum. And if it is go beyond that by another 2 inches, then it is very low water level. There is annunciation and tripping for very low water level, and there are annunciation and alarm for low water level. Low water level can create starvation in the water walls. By starvation we mean loss of availability of water within the water wall water steam mixture, and that may burn out the tubes, water wall tubes, and it may cause tube leakages. So we have to see how we can safeguard. That's why tripping arrangement is also there. In case the normal water level is exceeded by the drum water level exceed the normal water level, then there may be situation when steam flow is more compared to feed water flow within the boiler, and we have gradually having low water level. And if we have steam flow is less and water flow is more, water level will continue to rise, and when the rising of water level goes by 5 inches above the normal water level, it is termed as high water level, and when it is going beyond the high water level by another 2 inches, it is very high water level. Just like low water level, at high water level we have alarms, and above high water level, if it goes very high water level, then there may be tripping. So this way we try to safeguard of boiler from carryover of wet steam to the superheaters, because if superheating is not properly done due to wetting of incoming steam, then we will get less outlet temperature of the superheated steam, and there may be carryover of silica also due to improper blowdown. So in view of this, there is proper control and instrumentation related to drum level, and we continue to monitor that continuously in terms of feed water flow and steam flow from the boiler. Safety valves are provided in the boiler in different locations like drum, superheater line and reheater line. In the drum, we have highest pressure setted safety valve, and then superheater outlet line, final superheater, we have another set of safety valves, and we have another set of safety valves in reheater inlet line. All these safety valves together, they safeguard the boiler, and their total steam relieving capacity is more than the steam generation capacity of the boiler. Water wall system forms the largest heat transfer area within the boiler. Almost 50% of the total heat absorption takes place in water walls. They are actually encasing the entire furnace, and they are also fitted at the rooftop of the boiler. So naturally, they are receiving the maximum heat, whatever generated heat is there within the boiler due to the combustion. Now, as we know that when water is entering in the water wall, they are in the saturated temperature. So naturally, whatever heat is absorbed in the water walls, that heat is generating nucleate boiling, and due to this nucleate boiling, we are getting water steam mixture. But the thing is that as there is only addition of latent heat of vaporization, the entire water walls are supposed to be at constant temperature, because there is no rise in coolant temperature. So there is a constant temperature difference exists between water and the tube metal temperature. Beside that, these water walls, they may be formed in such a way the tubes are in contact with one another. That is called, the type of arrangement is called tangent walling, and there may be some membrane strip in between the tubes which are welded, seal welded. So this kind of arrangement is called membrane walling. So whatever may be the walling, the thing is that it depends upon the arrangement of heat transfer area and how much is the furnace cross section. That way we try to figure it out and fix it. In certain water wall systems, we can find spiral tubing. That means tubings are not vertical, and particularly in supercritical boilers, this spiral tubing arrangement is there, so that there is a high speed flow within the tubing with higher heat absorption rate. Anyway, that doesn't make any difference in terms of capacity of heat transfer within the water wall tubes, and this is generally utilized for smooth control of flow. Now we shall discuss about within the water superheaters and reheaters. As we have already informed that superheaters are absorbing around total 30% of the generated heat
due to combustion, and reheaters generally absorbs around 14% of the total heat available within the boiler. So naturally they are important components and they have very much having contributions in the steam quality and steaming parameters. As such, superheating is done in three phases. As I told that primary part we have low temperature superheating, primary first part, then primary second part platen superheaters, and then final superheating. And all these three phases of superheating is done in such a way that flue gas with high temperature is available for superheating according to the requirement and spacing of the and location of the superheaters. As maximum heat available is within the furnace, so naturally primary platen superheaters are exposed to the furnace and they are receiving the radiant heat, and in the second pass availability of heat is less, and this is the first phase of primary superheating in LTSH, so naturally heat added is also less. It is also to be seen that superheaters are adding heat to steam, so naturally the tube metal temperatures are higher and naturally they are having more tendency for oxidation at high temperature. So naturally superheating is done very securely, and we try to safeguard the superheating tube elements by staging the superheating in such a way that difference between the tube metal temperature and steam within the tubing, they do not have too much of temperature difference. In general, average 30 to 35 degree temperature difference is there between the tube metal and the superheated steam along the flow passage. As you see, in the LTSH portion we have cross flow arrangement, but in the primary platen and secondary superheater the flow pattern of the flue gas and steam is parallel flow. That means a constant temperature difference is maintained as we increase the steam temperature, and heat absorption is kept at constant rate. Beside that, the superheaters are absorbing heat in such a way that as a result of heat absorption, the flue gas temperature is reducing. Due to reduction of flue gas temperature, the volumetric flow is also getting reduced. So velocity is also getting controlled by heat absorption. So naturally we have a total control over the heat absorption rate by flue gas flow, and this superheater's heat absorption basically reflected by flue gas flow pattern. So naturally that is being maintained by furnace draft. So this way superheaters are continuously absorbing heat, generating superheated steam, and that steam is sent to HP turbine for the purpose of conversion of useful work. Now let us see the
reheater arrangements from the HP turbine outlet, if you see, we try to have the steam to re-enter in the boiler for resupparating, and this resupparating is done in such a way because outlet of the HP turbine the pressure is less, so naturally we are heating it this steam with superheating in such a way that original superheat temperature is attained. Say if the final superheater outlet temperature is 540 degrees centigrade, reheat temperature is taken back to 540 degrees centigrade, and this superheated steam at lower pressure, that means degree of superheat is more, and it is again sent by hot reheat line to the intermediate pressure turbine for further useful work extraction. So naturally this way we try to run the steam generation in such a way maximum useful work can be extracted from the boiler steaming arrangement. So far from our discussion, we have seen that final superheater temperature and steam temperature is very important parameter in context of total heat content of the steam and how that can used for work availability in the turbine. So naturally it depends upon the boiler loading and how the combustion is getting controlled with excess air, because whatever combustion product is there within the boiler, this product of combustion is carrying the heat, and if it is dilated with excess air, the dry flue gas loss increases. Beside that, incoming feed water temperature plays a critical role. If feed water temperature is below the desired normal, so naturally we have more heat absorption for increasing the feed water temperature to the rated level. So naturally the steam temperature varies for that. Then how the saturated steam is generated in terms of quantity and dryness, that is also important, and how much blowdown is given to control the quality of steam, that is also part of the quality of quantity of steaming, because generally 2 to 4% blowdown is essential, but if blowdown is more, so naturally generation of steam is getting hampered in terms of requirement, because whatever feed water is flowing, not all is going to generate steam, and there is loss of water from the system, and we require makeup water to fill the gap between the steam and water, steam generated and water used for that. Beside that, burner operation is an important parameter. We can arrange the burner and operate the burner in such a way so that we can manage the distribution of heat in between superheaters, reheaters and water walls. If we want more heat to be absorbed in the water walls compared to superheaters, it can be done. So we have to see how the heat absorption is distributed with the burner operation, that affect the steaming parameters. Another issue is the heat transfer arrangement across the boiler, because heat is getting transferred through different heating surfaces, heat traps, and their cleanliness, whether they are having fire side corrosion or water side corrosion, so these are also affecting. The most important part is the fuel quality, how much heat value is available with the fuel, because each burner is having a maximum capacity of firing fuel. If fuel heat value is more, we can fire less quantity of fuel for generating the same quantity of heat. But if fuel heat value is less, so that is limiting the total heat generation capacity within the furnace. Naturally, though even if heat absorption capacity is maintained, we cannot have the steaming parameters at the required level, so that affects. So sometimes we require to have a control over steam temperature. This steam temperature control may be done by separately fired superheaters or regulating the excess air, or some of the units they are having flue gas recirculation from the air preheater outlet. Sometimes we specify the selective burner operation, so that by using the upper burners we can give more heat absorption in the superheaters, or using the lower burners, lower elevation burners, we can improve the heat absorption in the water walls. We can have the tilting burners, we can tilt up and down in case of corner firing arrangement, particularly BHL make units. Beside that, we have a special provision of spray watering through attemperation or desuperheaters, where we use some arrangement of water injection within the steam flow passage, so that there is mixing or surface type cooling from this steam flow passage. There may be water directly mixing between the LTSH and platen superheater, or there may be arrangement of cooling jacket which controls the outlet steam temperature from the platen superheater. So this way we are trying to regulate the steam temperature. In case of mixing type arrangement of attemperation, we have to regulate the purity or quality of water we are using for spraying. It must be having higher pressure, higher than the steam pressure where it is getting mixed, and temperature should be at the saturation level, so that we should not get steam within the steam. So naturally pressure has to be maintained at a higher regime from the saturation point of view. So this way we can have a control of steam temperature, and we get final superheated steam at desired parameters. Thank you all for your patient hearing and learning. In case of any queries, please do not hesitate to contact me in the email and get your answers. In fact, I will be ready to help you out for your queries.